All right, now as we look at creating the bottom of the foot, some of this is going to seem a little odd and awkward to begin with here, but as we move through it, it will all work out. So we're going to start by bridging across here with 5 segments. It seems like an awful lot, but as we go through, we'll actually see how everything actually works out rather nicely. So we're going to bridge, and as we start moving around here, we're going to find out that we've got an edge up here that just doesn't work. So we're going to end up needing to create more geometry along the side over here in order to work with there. But now we're going to come back here to the back, and we're going to cap this big giant poly here. And then we're going to look at creating some new edges. So as we figure out where all of this is really supposed to flow, we're going to end up having a couple extra polys in here. Actually, let's go back. Let's throw that one away, and we're going to go back to our edge. We're going to take this edge, and we're going to bridge with a single segment. So now as I bridge that and we take a look, we magically have the ability to have 2 caps with 4 edges each. So really there's no magic to it whatsoever. It's just a matter of understanding how that geometry is going to flow and then manipulating things to kind of work the way we want them to. So that's going to give us kind of a nice ability to round off the bottom of the foot back here without having so much geometry again that we can't control it. Now, as we move to the side of the foot here, we're going to have to extend the side of the foot down in order to allow us to actually create more of the volume of the side of the foot here. So let's take a look and see how far down we actually are here. I'm going to bring that down. We'll adjust our vertices a little bit to kind of get things relatively flat. And then we're going to have to go back and kind of figure out where that exists on the side of the foot. So are we too far in? Are we too far out? Well, this is pretty much where the big toe approximately is going to come out of. So let's grab those 2 vertices and actually from this view move them back up a little bit so they're more in line with the rest of what we're calling the bottom of the foot right here. So as we look around now, we'll see we actually have an awful lot of geometry that's going to have to bridge across between these 2 polys. So we're going to look at actually taking, let's move around that side, and bridging from this edge basically to this edge. Now, the bridge tool doesn't like bridging across there where we have adjacent polygons. So we're going to ignore that for now, and we're going to look at where we can actually bridge across the bottom. So that's going to make the most sense to basically come back to an edge over here. So when we bridge there, we know at the other part of the foot here we have 5 segments. So we're going to go with that. Then we're going to look at what we can do to build that poly. Now, for now, we're not going to have the ability to do that. So we're going to go and grab all of our edges front to back here. And we're going to bridge those with 1, 2, 3 segments. So now as we bridge with 3 segments there, we're going to have the ability to target weld. Let's make this full screen. The new vertices back into the old ones because they're in about the right spot. Now as we look at this, right, we just don't have beautiful geometry here. So we're going to take and we're going to add a flow connect right there. We're going to move this vertex a little bit more forward. And then we're going to look and see, again, where it makes sense to try to bridge. So if we grab these 2, we're going to end up with a try right there and a try right there. If I grab these 2, we're going to end up with a quad here and a try here. Well, there may end up being some form of sacrifice that we have to make. But if we take a look and see, if I grab this edge and shift select, where does that all go? And it ends up flowing all the way back up in and around the mesh. So we definitely don't want to add geometry there. But if I were to take this edge and shift select, well, I only get those 2. So we can easily add another loop right there with our flow connect. And then we now have much cleaner geometry that we can bridge single segment. And then we end up, right, we'll bridge one more here. And we have a triangle right there that we can clean out. So we're going to go to our border, we're going to cap, and then we're going to grab these two edges and we're going to flow connect one more time. So now that flow connect, that last one there, allows me to continue to round out the foot in these spots so that as we get down into the big toe, we have nice, smooth, round geometry and quads everywhere. So now that we've got that, we're going to go back up, and here I actually want to add one more flow connect around this whole part of the foot. So I've got a little bit more geometry here to work with, and I get a nice kind of smooth continuous loop around there. We'll get out of our sub object, and then I'm going to go down to relax. I'm going to drop this way down. And then as we smooth around the foot, we'll get nice rounded geometry that gives us a much more natural looking foot. So again, we want to make sure that we don't end up with so much geometry that we really can't control it, but we always have to look for the flow and making sure that we have geometry going really in the correct directions. Now, it's not always that easy to see where that's going to be, and a lot of times a little bit of trial and error goes a long way. So there's no absolutes to most of this. So I'm going to grab right here where our instep is. We're going to use a little bit of soft selection, and we're going to move this part of the foot up a bit to help create that volume of the instep that's going to lift up a bit on the inside of the foot there. So came out a little bit when we moved that. So as we move things around, we'll be able to narrow this part of the foot a little bit more. And now it's a little bit more visual than it is an absolute. So as I move around now, I can start to get a much better idea of how that structure is going to work. Now here we're going to be basically at the ball of the foot. We're going to bring that down a little bit. And we see we're really just kind of starting to set up for where the toes are going to come out of this end structure. So that actually looks like a pretty good volume to begin with, so that as we move on into creating the end of the foot and building the toes, we're going to actually have some pretty decent geometry to work with.